before we step into today's story, I just want to say this one is about healing after betrayal and choosing love even when it's complicated. If you ever had to fight past your fear to hold on to something real, this story is for you. Let's begin.
The Charleston sun beat down on Emma's shoulders as she hauled another box from her car, the humid air wrapping around her like a second skin. The beach house stood before her, weathered blue shutters hanging slightly crooked, paint peeling in long strips, the wraparound porch sagging in places it shouldn't. Her family's old sanctuary looked as broken as she felt. She set the box down harder than she meant to, dust rising from the wooden planks. Through the screen door, she could see more boxes stacked inside, her entire life reduced to cardboard and packing tape. 32 years old and starting over. The thought sat heavy in her chest. Emma pushed a curl away from her face, the natural coils already rebelling against the coastal humidity. Her amber eyes swept across the familiar landscape, the beach grass swaying beyond the dunes, the ocean glittering in the distance. She'd grown up here, back when this house was filled with her grandmother's laughter and the smell of she-crab soup simmering on the stove, back before she'd left for the city, before Tom, before everything shattered. The memory came unbidden, sharp as broken glass, standing in the doorway of their bedroom, no, his bedroom. It had never really been theirs, watching him scramble to pull the sheets over his mistress. Blonde hair spilled across the pillow where Emma's head should have been. Tom's face, pale and caught, his mouth forming words that sounded like apologies but felt like daggers. Emma, wait, I can explain. But there was nothing to explain. 5 years of marriage, of promises whispered in the dark, of planning a future that would never come. All of it a lie. Emma shook her head, forcing herself back to the present. That was 7 months ago. She'd signed the papers, left the city, and spent months in a fog of shame and grief. Now she was here, in the one place that had ever felt like home, determined to rebuild something. Herself, maybe, or at least a life worth living. She grabbed a toolbox from the trunk and headed toward the porch. The railing wobbled under her hand, another thing that needed fixing. Everything needed fixing. The hammer slipped from her grip as she bent to examine a loose board, clattering down the porch steps and landing in the sandy path below. Damn it, she muttered, starting down the steps. I got it. The voice came from her left, deep, a little rough around the edges. Emma looked up to find a man jogging toward her, his stride easy despite the soft sand. He was tall, broad-shouldered, his sun-weathered skin glistening with sweat. Sandy brown hair stuck to his forehead, and when he bent to pick up her hammer, she caught sight of sea-green eyes that seemed to hold the Atlantic itself. He straightened, offering her the hammer with a small smile. Looked like it was trying to make a run for it. Emma felt heat rise to her cheeks that had nothing to do with the Charleston sun. She took the hammer, her fingers brushing his for a fraction of a second. Thanks. Apparently I can't hold on to anything today. Moving in? He nodded toward the house, his eyes curious but not intrusive. Something like that. Emma tucked the hammer against her hip, suddenly aware of how she must look. Old tank top, cut-off shorts, her deep brown skin already gleaming with sweat, curls worn loose and free. It's my family's place. I'm just fixing it up, Ryan. He extended his hand. I'm next door. The grey house with the boat out front. Emma hesitated for only a moment before shaking his hand. His palm was calloused, warm, his grip firm but gentle. Emma, if you need any help with the renovations, I'm pretty handy, and I owe this place. Your grandmother used to bring me sweet tea when I was working on my dock. Best I ever had. Something softened in Emma's chest at the mention of her grandmother. But she couldn't let herself go there. Not with this stranger, no matter how kind his eyes seemed. I appreciate it, but I've got it covered. Ryan nodded. No offense taken. Fair enough, but the offer stands. He stepped back, resuming his jog. Welcome home, Emma. She watched him disappear down the beach, his figure growing smaller against the vast expanse of sand and sea. Something stirred in her stomach, something she immediately pushed down. She wasn't here for that. Wasn't here for men with gentle smiles and ocean eyes. She was here to heal, alone. 3 days later, Emma found herself in line at the Coastal Grind, the local cafe that still smelled exactly like it had when she was 16, dark roast coffee and buttery croissants. The chalkboard menu advertised shrimp and grits alongside the usual espresso drinks, and the walls were decorated with local art, depicting Rainbow Row and historic church steeples. Emma, she turned, and there he was again, Ryan, looking somehow different in a faded green t-shirt that matched his eyes, cargo shorts and worn boat shoes. His hair was drier now, curling slightly at the ends. "Ryan, hi." She felt awkward, caught off guard. "Didn't expect to see you here." He moved to stand beside her in line. "How's the house coming?" Slowly, very slowly. Emma shifted her weight. "Turns out, everything's more broken than I thought. That's the thing about old houses. They hide their damage well until you really start looking." Something in his tone suggested he wasn't just talking about houses. The barista called for the next customer, and Emma stepped forward, ordering a large iced coffee. When she reached for her wallet, Ryan was already handing the barista his card. "You don't have to, I know, but your grandmother's sweet tea. Consider us even." He ordered breakfast, for himself and what sounded like food for several other people. "Research team," he explained, catching her curious look. "I'm a marine biologist. We're doing surveys off the coast." "That's actually really cool." They moved to the pickup counter. The silence between them not quite comfortable, but not entirely awkward either. "So," Ryan said, leaning against the counter, "still sure you don't want help with those renovations?" "Because I've got a free afternoon tomorrow, and I'm pretty good with a hammer." Better than letting it escape anyway. Emma felt her lips twitch into an almost smile. "You're not going to let that go, are you?" "Not when I saw it happen with my own eyes." She should say no. She should maintain her boundaries, keep her distance, protect what was left of her heart. But the fence was falling apart, and the porch railing was a safety hazard, and she was so damn tired of doing everything alone. "Okay," she heard herself say, "tomorrow, but just the fence." Ryan's smile was like sunrise. "Just the fence. I'll bring the tools." He showed up at 2 o'clock. Truck bed loaded with equipment, wearing a tool belt that looked like it had seen years of use. Emma met him at the side yard, where the fence listed drunkenly. Several posts rotted through. "Damn," Ryan muttered, examining the damage. "These posts are completely rotted through." Emma crouched beside him, running her hand over the splintered wood. "I knew it was bad, but I didn't realize how bad. The whole place has been empty for 5 years. After my grandmother died, no one could bear to." Emma trailed off, swallowing hard. Ryan's expression softened. "I'm sorry." She was a good woman. They worked in a rhythm that surprised Emma, Ryan pointing out which posts needed replacing. Emma holding boards steady while he secured them. The afternoon sun baked them both, and she found herself sneaking glances at the way his muscles moved under his shirt, the focused expression on his face. "Hold this board steady for me?" Ryan asked, positioning a new plank against the post. Emma pressed her hands against the wood, keeping it in place while Ryan lined up a nail. He hammered it in with practiced precision, then moved to the next spot. "I can do that one," Emma said, reaching for the hammer. Ryan handed it over with a slight smile. "All yours." Emma positioned the nail, focused on getting it right. She drew the hammer back and swung, missing the nail completely and smashing it directly onto her left index finger. Shit. Emma dropped the hammer, cradling her hand against her chest. Ryan was beside her in an instant, his hands reaching for hers. "Let me see. I'm fine. I'm just... Emma, let me see." His voice was firm but gentle, and she found herself extending her hand. He took it carefully, his calloused fingers cradling hers as he examined the damage. The nail was intact, but the skin was already bruising, swelling slightly. "I'm such a pro at this, huh?" Emma tried to laugh, but it came out shaky. The pain was sharp, but it wasn't the pain making her breathless. It was the way Ryan was holding her hand, the way his thumb brushed across her knuckles, the way his sea-green eyes lifted to meet hers. For a moment they just looked at each other. The world seemed to narrow to this, his hands on hers, the smell of sawdust and salt air, the sound of waves in the distance. Emma felt something crack open in her chest, something she'd locked down tight after Tom. "Guess we need some safety gloves," Ryan said softly, his voice rough. He released her hand slowly, like he didn't quite want to. Emma pulled her hand back, tucking it against her stomach. "Yeah, safety first." They finished the fence in near silence. But it was a different kind of quiet now, charged, aware, full of things neither of them was saying. As Ryan packed up his tools, the sun beginning its descent toward the horizon, he turned to her. "Emma, yeah? Would you want to go for a walk sometime? On the beach, maybe?" Emma felt her walls slam back into place. "Ryan, we're neighbors. Just a walk. Like neighbors getting to know each other." His smile was hopeful, careful. "No pressure. No expectations. She should say no. Every instinct told her to say no, to protect herself, to keep this man at arm's length, before he got any closer to the broken pieces of her heart. But standing there in the golden light, her finger still throbbing, his eyes still kind, Emma found herself saying something she didn't expect. Maybe, ask me again later. It wasn't a yes, but it wasn't a no either, and as Ryan drove away, Emma stood on her newly repaired porch, watching the sun paint the sky in shades of amber and rose, and wondered if maybe, just maybe, she was capable of more than just survival. Maybe she was capable of hope. A month had passed since the fence, and Emma found herself walking beside Ryan on the beach at sunset, their footprints disappearing behind them as the tide rolled in. So this is what neighbors do? Emma asked, a teasing edge to her voice. The ocean breeze caught her curls, pulling them loose from the braid she'd attempted that morning. Ryan glanced at her, that easy smile playing at his lips. This is exactly what neighbors do. Walk, talk, pretend we're not both avoiding going home to empty houses. The honesty caught her off guard. She looked at him, really looked, taking in the way the fading sunlight caught the green in his eyes, the slight stubble on his jaw, the way his shoulders seemed to carry weight she couldn't see. You live alone? She asked. Yeah, it's just me and a lot of research papers. He bent to pick up a shell, examining it before tossing it back to the sea. Me and boxes I still haven't unpacked. Emma kicked at the wet sand. Turns out running away from your problems doesn't make you any better at settling into a new place. Is that what you're doing? Running away? The question was gentle, not accusatory, but Emma felt her defenses rise anyway. I'm starting over. There's a difference. Ryan nodded, letting it drop. They walked in silence for a while, the sound of the waves filling the space between them. A pelican dove into the water nearby, emerging with a fish in its beak. Your grandmother, Ryan said eventually. She used to tell me that the ocean forgives everything. Every morning it washes the beach clean, gives it another chance. Emma's throat tightened. She used to tell me that too. Maybe that's why you came back. Maybe it was. Maybe she was hoping for the same thing. To be washed clean. To start again. To be something other than the woman Tom had discarded. Ryan stopped walking, turning to face her. The sun was almost gone now, the sky painted in deep purples and oranges. Emma, I know we're just neighbors, but I'd like... Look, a dolphin. Emma pointed toward the water, where a fin broke the surface. It was a cowardly deflection, and they both knew it. But Ryan followed her gaze anyway, letting her off the hook. For now. They walked back in comfortable silence, the sky deepening to purple. At her porch steps, Ryan paused. Thanks for the walk. Any time, neighbor. Emma smiled despite herself. She watched him head next door. And when he glanced back before going inside, she was still standing there. The small moments accumulated like seashells. Ryan bringing her coffee one morning. I made too much, he claimed. Although they both knew it was a lie, the cup still warm in her hands as they sat on her porch steps. Him showing up to help install new shutters. His truck bed somehow always stocked with exactly what she needed. His laugh when she told him about trying to navigate Charleston's historic district and ending up at a ghost tour instead of the hardware store. The way he'd touch her lower back when they passed through doorways, gentle and brief, like he couldn't help himself. The lingering looks that made her skin feel too tight. 3 weeks into their neighborly routine, Ryan asked the question she'd been dreading. They were sitting on his dock, their legs dangling over the water, watching the sun set over the marsh. The air smelled like pluff mud and jasmine, quintessentially low country. Can I take you to dinner? Ryan's voice was quiet, almost hesitant. Not as neighbors, as something else. Just talk, no expectations. Emma's chest constricted. She'd known this was coming, had felt it building in every shared glance, every accidental touch. But knowing and being ready were different things. Ryan, I can't or won't. Does it matter? She pulled her legs up, wrapping her arms around her knees. The answer's the same. He was quiet for a long moment, his jaw working. It matters to me. Emma stood, the dock swaying slightly under her feet. I should go, Emma. Thank you for the company, really, but I'm not there yet. She didn't wait for his response, just walked back down the dock. Her vision blurring with tears she refused to let fall. Ryan didn't stop showing up. The next morning there was coffee on her porch. Emma found it when she stepped outside for work. Still warm, with a note that just said good morning. She looked toward his house, saw his truck already gone, and felt something soften in her chest. The morning after that, she caught him fixing her mailbox. "It was leaning," Ryan said when he noticed her watching from the window. "Drove me crazy every time I passed it." Emma came outside, coffee in hand, the one she'd made herself this time. "You know you don't have to keep doing this, I know." He tested the mailbox, making sure it was secure. "But I want to." A few days later, he brought fresh shrimp from the dock. Emma opened the door to find him standing there with a cooler. That easy smile on his face. "Buddy of mine had extra. Thought you might want some." Emma took the cooler, shaking her head. "You're persistent, I'll give you that. Only when it matters." He never mentioned the dinner invitation again. Never pushed, just remained present, constant, like the tide itself. Emma didn't know whether to be grateful or frustrated. One evening, unable to sleep, she found herself on the beach at midnight. The moon was full, casting silver light across the water. She walked barefoot in the surf, letting the waves lap at her ankles. Trying to quiet the war raging in her mind, she could still see Tom's face, hear his voice making promises he never intended to keep. "Forever, Emma. You're my forever. I'll never hurt you." "You're the only one I see. Trust me, all lies. Every word. A beautifully crafted deception." But then there was Ryan. Ryan who asked for nothing. Ryan who showed up with coffee and fixed things without being asked. Ryan who looked at her like she was something precious, something worth patience. What if she let herself try? What if she opened that door, let him in, and he shattered her the same way Tom had? Could she survive it a second time? The thought alone made her want to run back to the city, back to anywhere that wasn't here, facing feelings she wasn't ready to have. But she didn't run. She stood in the surf, let the water pull the sand from beneath her feet, and wondered when the ocean would finally wash her clean enough to start again. 2 more days passed. Ryan's truck stayed parked at his house. No coffee appeared on her porch. No casual visits to fix things that weren't quite broken. Emma told herself she was relieved. She was lying. On the 3rd day, she found herself standing on his porch at dusk, her hand raised to knock, her heart hammering against her ribs. This was stupid. She should go home. She should maintain her boundaries. She should. The door opened before she could knock. Ryan stood there in sweatpants and a t-shirt, his hair disheveled, his eyes red-rimmed. He looked surprised to see her. "Emma, are you okay?" The words came out more concerned than she'd intended. "I'm fine. Just a cold. Didn't want you to catch it." He leaned against the doorframe, and she could see now that he was slightly pale, a sheen of sweat on his forehead. "Have you eaten?" "Emma, you don't have to, have you?" He sighed, a small smile tugging at his lips despite everything. "No, nurse. I haven't. I'll be back in an hour." She didn't give him time to argue. Just headed back to her house and threw together the chicken soup her grandmother used to make, the kind with rice and vegetables and enough spice to clear any sinus. She added homemade biscuits because her grandmother would have, and because some part of her wanted to. When she returned, Ryan opened the door looking even worse, but his eyes lit up at the sight of the food. "You didn't have to do this," he said, but he was already taking the containers from her hands. "I know. Consider it payment for all the fence repair, and the shutters, and the mailbox." Emma followed him inside, her first time in his house. It was neat but lived in, filled with books about marine biology and framed photographs of the ocean. A wetsuit hung in the corner. Research papers covered the coffee table. Ryan sat on the couch and she handed him a bowl of soup. He took a bite and closed his eyes. "This is incredible. My grandmother's recipe." They sat in comfortable silence while he ate. Emma perched on the chair across from him, watching him slowly regain some color. "You know," Ryan said finally, setting down the empty bowl. "I would have preferred a dinner date if you were to reward me." Emma's breath caught. There it was again, that gentle persistence, that refusal to let her push him away completely. "Ryan, I need to tell you something." The words came before she could stop them, before fear could lock them away. 8 months ago, I got divorced. My husband, ex-husband, we were together for 7 years, married for 5, and he cheated on me. Ryan's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Pain, recognition, understanding. Emma continued, the words pouring out now like water through a broken dam. "I found them in our bed. In our home, And you want to know the worst part?
He
He
married her.
married her. 2 months ago, he married the woman he destroyed our marriage for. And I'm supposed to be over it. Supposed to have moved on, but I can't. I can't just trust someone again like nothing happened. I'm not asking you to. Ryan's voice was rough. Whether from the cold or emotion, she couldn't tell. I'm not asking you to forget what he did or to pretend you're not hurt. I'm just asking you to let me show you that not every man is him. What if you are? The question came out broken. What if I let myself care about you when you break me the same way? What if I'm not strong enough to survive it again? Ryan leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, his eyes locked on hers. Emma's, I can't promise they won't hurt you. People hurt each other. It's part of being human. But I can promise I will never lie to you. I will never betray you, and I will never stop showing up. Even when it's hard, even when you push me away. The words settled around her like a blanket, warm and terrifying. I see you, Ryan continued, his voice soft but fierce. I see how strong you are, how you're rebuilding your life piece by piece. I see how you guard your heart like it's made of glass, and I'm not asking you to hand it to me. I'm just asking you to let me stand close enough to prove I won't drop it. Emma felt tears slip down her cheeks. I'm scared, I know, but fear doesn't mean you're not ready. Sometimes it just means something matters. She wiped her eyes, laughing a little through the tears. You're sick. You shouldn't be this articulate when you're sick. I've had 3 days to rehearse what I'd say if you ever knocked on my door. That made her laugh for real, the sound surprising her. You're impossible, and you're here. Which means maybe, just maybe, you're not as closed off as you think you are. Emma stood, suddenly needing space, needing air. I should let you rest. Ryan stood too, swaying slightly. Emma, wait. Can I ask you something? She paused at the door. That dinner invitation. It's still open. When you're ready. If you're ever ready. Emma looked at him. Really looked at this man who'd fixed her fence and brought her coffee and somehow managed to slip past her defenses without her noticing. This man who was patient when she needed patience, persistent when she needed pushing, present when she needed proof that not everyone leaves. Ask me again, she said quietly. When you're not half dead from cold medicine, is that a maybe? Emma opened the door, the night air cool on her flushed cheeks. She looked back at him, at his hopeful, exhausted, beautiful face. It's a maybe, and for the first time in 7 months, maybe felt like enough. The next evening, Emma found herself standing on Ryan's porch again, this time with a proper meal. Shrimp and grits made the low-country way, with bacon and a touch of cream, the way her grandmother had taught her. Ryan answered the door looking marginally better. His color returned, though his voice was still rough. You're back. I'm checking on my patient. Emma held up the container. And I brought reinforcements. He stepped aside to let her in, and this time she noticed more details. The worn leather couch that looked comfortable. The collection of shells on the windowsill, each one labeled with scientific names in neat handwriting. A life built carefully, thoughtfully, alone. They sat at his small kitchen table, and Ryan took his first bite, his eyes closing in appreciation. If I'd known being sick got me this kind of treatment, I would have caught the flu months ago. Don't push your luck. But Emma was smiling. So, Ryan said, setting down his fork, his sea-green eyes finding hers, I'm feeling significantly less dead, which means I'm going to ask you again. Emma, will you have dinner with me? A real one? Where I'm not half delirious and you're not just being charitable. Emma's heart did something complicated in her chest. A flutter, a squeeze, a leap she wasn't sure she was ready for. But she thought about the last few days, about his absence and how much she'd missed him. About his words, fear doesn't mean you're not ready. Yes, the single word hung in the air between them. Ryan's expression transformed, surprise giving way to something that looked like joy, pure and unguarded. Yeah, but somewhere casual. I'm not ready for anything fancy. How about the Boyle House? Friday night? Emma nodded, her mouth dry. Friday works. She left before she could change her mind. But all the way home she couldn't stop smiling. Friday came wrapped in golden autumn light. The Charleston heat finally breaking into something manageable. Ryan picked her up at 7, wearing dark jeans and a button-down shirt rolled at the sleeves, looking unfairly handsome. The Boyle House was perfect, casual, loud, filled with locals and tourists alike, the smell of Old Bay seasoning and melted butter thick in the air. They sat at a picnic table covered in newspaper, cracking crab legs and laughing when Emma got butter on her nose. Very elegant, Ryan teased, reaching across to wipe it away with his napkin, his touch gentle. I told you I wasn't ready for fancy. This is perfect. And the way he said it, looking at her like she was the only person in the room, made Emma believe he meant it. They talked about everything and nothing. His research on sea turtle migration patterns, her childhood summers spent collecting shells on this very beach, the way the city had changed them both in ways they were still discovering. Why marine biology? Emma asked, sucking hot sauce off her fingers. Ryan's expression grew distant, thoughtful. My parents died when I was 19. Car accident. After that, I needed something bigger than myself, you know. Something that mattered. The ocean's been here longer than any of us. It'll be here long after. There's something comforting in that. Emma reached across the table, her hand covering his. I'm sorry. It was a long time ago. But thank you. He turned his palm up, threading his fingers through hers. I had my sister, at least, Sophia. She was 16. We took care of each other. The name meant nothing to Emma then. Just a sister, a piece of Ryan's history. She filed it away and moved on. The weeks that followed felt like falling into warm water. They walked the beach at sunset almost every evening, their shoulders bumping, their conversations flowing easy as the tide. Ryan taught her the names of the birds that nested in the dunes. Least terns, Wilson's plovers, oyster catchers with their bright orange beaks. They mate for life, he told her, pointing at a pair of oyster catchers. Once they find their partner, that's it. They're together until the end. Emma watched the birds, something aching in her chest. That's either beautiful or terrifying. Maybe both. Late nights found them on her porch, drinking sweet tea and talking until the moon rose high. Emma told him about her grandmother, about learning to make biscuits on Sunday mornings, about the way this house used to smell like love and safety. It can again, Ryan said softly. You're already bringing it back to life. One evening he brought her out on his boat, a small research vessel named the Turning Tide. They anchored in a quiet cove while Ryan pointed out moon, jellyfish drifting beneath them, their bodies translucent and ethereal. They're 95% water, he explained, leaning over the side. Barely anything at all, but still alive, still surviving. Emma sat beside him, their thighs pressed together. I feel like that sometimes. Like I'm barely held together. Ryan turned to her, his hand finding her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. You're more than you think you are, Emma. So much more. The moment stretched, charged and fragile. He leaned closer, his eyes dropping to her lips, asking permission without words. Then thunder cracked overhead. They both jumped as the sky opened up, rain pouring down in sheets. Ryan scrambled to start the engine while Emma laughed, her head thrown back, her curls plastering to her face as water soaked through her clothes. So much for romance, she shouted over the downpour. At least we're already wet. Ryan steered them back toward the dock, both of them laughing like children, breathless and drenched and somehow perfectly happy. 2 months slipped by like sand through fingers. Emma started her new job at a local non-profit, focused on coastal conservation, work that felt meaningful in ways her corporate marketing job never had. Ryan met her for lunch twice a week, bringing her favorites from the cafe. She'd graduated from iced coffee to sweet tea and biscuits. They cooked dinner together at her house, him teaching her how to properly devein shrimp, her teaching him that not everything needed to be measured precisely. They fell into rhythms that felt dangerously like a relationship, like something real and lasting. And Emma was terrified. She lay awake at night, Ryan's words from earlier that evening echoing in her mind. They'd been washing dishes, their hands bumping in the soapy water, when he'd said, I could get used to this. The domesticity of it, the comfort, the way her heart had leaped at the thought of him getting used to being in her space, in her life. She was falling in love with him. The realization hit her like a wave, knocking the breath from her lungs. She was falling in love with Ryan, with his patient hands and his ocean, eyes and the way he looked at her, like she was worth waiting for. And it terrified her more than anything had in years. What if he left? What if he woke up one day and decided she was too broken, too guarded, too much work? What if she gave him everything and he gave it back? Emma stared at the ceiling, her grandmother's words floating through her memory. The ocean forgives everything, but could she forgive herself if she let fear stop her from this? From him? The next evening, Ryan showed up at her door with a blanket and a bottle of wine. "Come with me," he said simply. They walked to the beach in the twilight, the sky turning deep purple, stars beginning to emerge. Ryan spread the blanket on the sand, and they sat together, passing the wine back and forth, not needing glasses or pretense. "Emma," Ryan said after a while, his voice quiet but firm, "I need to tell you something." Her heart stopped. Here it was. The moment he told her it was too much, that she was too damaged, that he was done waiting. "I'm falling in love with you." Emma's breath caught, her eyes snapping to his. "I know you're scared," he continued, turning to face her fully. "I know you've been hurt, but I need you to know I'm all in. I'm not going anywhere, and I'm falling in love with you, whether you're ready to hear it or not." Tears blurred her vision. "Ryan, you don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know." But Emma was done being afraid. Done letting Tom's ghost dictate her future. Done protecting a heart that was already his, whether she'd admitted it or not. She reached for him, her hands cupping his face, and kissed him. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate and certain, fear and hope tangled together, two people reaching for each other across the wreckage of their pasts. Ryan's hands found her waist, pulling her closer, as he kissed her back with a reverence that made her chest ache. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Emma pressed her forehead to his. "I'm falling too," she whispered, "and it scares the hell out of me. Then we'll be scared together." They lay back on the blanket, Emma's head on Ryan's chest, his arm wrapped around her shoulders. Above them, the stars wheeled across the sky, constant and ancient, witnesses to every love story that had ever begun and ended on this shore. "I love you," Emma said into the darkness, testing the words, finding them true. Ryan's arm tightened around her. "I love you too." For the first time in years, Emma let herself believe in second chance. They stayed on the beach until nearly midnight, before walking back to her house, fingers intertwined, hearts full. Ryan kissed her good night on her porch, slow and sweet, a promise of more tomorrows. Emma reluctantly pulled away, her hand lingering in his. "Good night," she whispered. "Good night, Emma." She slipped inside, closing the door softly, and pressed her back against it, her lips still tingling, her heart full of hope and possibility. She was about to leave the door when his phone rang. She heard Ryan's voice through the wall, muffled but audible. He was on the phone, his tone frustrated. "Sophia, I can't keep doing this. No, I can't give you more money. You're not a kid anymore. That's not fair, and you know it." Emma shifted, guilty for eavesdropping but unable to stop listening. "I have a life too. I have Emma now. And I need you to understand that you're no longer my only responsibility as much as you were." A long pause. "Fine, yes, you can come visit. Maybe meeting Emma will help you understand. Okay, tomorrow? That's short notice, Sophia." "All right, I'll see you tomorrow." Emma heard him hang up, heard him sigh heavily through the wall. She should stay out of it. His relationship with his sister was complicated. He'd told her bits and pieces, how he'd raised Sophia after their parents died, how she'd struggled, how he'd supported her financially for years. It wasn't Emma's business, but she loved him. And if his sister needed him, Emma wanted him to help. The next morning, she found Ryan on his porch, coffee in hand, staring at the ocean with tension in his shoulders. "I heard you on the phone last night," Emma admitted. "I wasn't trying to listen, but—" "It's fine." Ryan rubbed his face. "My sister. She needs money again. She always needs something. Do you have it to give her?" "That's not the point, Em. I've been supporting her for 15 years. At some point she needs to stand on her own." Emma sat beside him, taking his hand. "But if you have it and she needs it—" "Ryan, family's complicated. I get that. But if you can help her, maybe you should." Ryan looked at her, something soft and grateful in his expression. "She's coming tomorrow. To meet you, actually. I think she wants to see if you're real." Emma's stomach flipped, nervous excitement. "I'd love to meet her. She will love you. How could she not?" Ryan kissed her temple. "Thank you for understanding. That's what you do when you love someone," Emma said simply. They sat together in the morning sun, watching the waves, both of them thinking about tomorrow, about family and future, and the life they were building together. Neither of them knew that tomorrow would change everything. Emma changed her shirt 3 times before settling on a simple blue sundress. She told herself it didn't matter what she wore to meet Ryan's sister, but her hands shook as she fastened the buttons. This mattered. Sophia mattered to Ryan, which meant she mattered to Emma. She sat on her porch, watching the driveway, her knee bouncing with nervous energy. The autumn sun was warm on her shoulders. The smell of salt and jasmine heavy in the air. Everything felt perfect. Everything felt right. She was building a life here. A real one, with Ryan, with hope, with a future that didn't include looking over her shoulder at the past. A silver sedan pulled into Ryan's driveway at exactly 2 o'clock. Emma stood smoothing her dress, practicing her smile. First impressions mattered. She wanted Sophia to like her, to see that she was good for Ryan, that she loved him. The woman who stepped out of the car had blonde hair that caught the sunlight. Emma's breath stopped. No. The woman turned and Emma saw her face. Delicate features, blue eyes. The same face that had been on Tom's arm at the courthouse when Emma signed the divorce papers. The same face she'd seen in her bedroom, tangled in sheets that should have been Emma's alone. The world tilted sideways. Ryan emerged from his house smiling, walking toward the car. He said something to the blonde woman, his sister, oh God, his sister. And then he turned, gesturing toward Emma's porch. Gesturing toward Emma. Emma, Ryan called out, his voice bright with excitement. Come meet Sophia. Emma couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't process what she was seeing. Ryan and Sophia walked toward her, and with each step, Emma felt her carefully reconstructed world crumbling like sand. Emma, this is my sister, Sophia. Sophia, this is Emma, my love. Ryan's smile was so open, so happy, so completely unaware that he was about to destroy everything. Sophia's face drained of color as recognition hit her. Oh my God, she froze. No, Emma whispered. No, it can't be. Ryan looked between them, confusion clouding his features. What's going on? Emma backed toward her door, her hand fumbling for the knob. This couldn't be happening. Not now. Not when she'd finally let herself hope. Let herself love, let herself believe in something good. Emma? Ryan stepped toward her, concern replacing confusion. I can't. Emma yanked open her door and stumbled inside, her vision blurring. Ryan followed her in, Sophia frozen on the porch behind him. Emma, what's wrong? Talk to me. Emma whirled on him, tears streaming down her face, her voice breaking. Did you know? Did I know what? Ryan reached for her, but she stepped back. Did you know? Emma's voice rose, hysteria creeping in. Did you know that your sister, that Sophia, did you know she's the one? She's the woman who... Her voice cracked completely. She's the one Tom left me for. The color drained from Ryan's face. What? Sophia, Emma spat the name like poison. Your sister Sophia is the woman my ex-husband cheated on me with. The woman he married 2 months after our divorce was finalized. That's her. That's Emma's legs gave out. And she sank onto the couch, her hands covering her face. Ryan stood frozen, his mouth opening and closing, no words coming out. Then he turned and walked back to the porch where Sophia stood, her arms wrapped around herself. Emma could hear their voices through the open door, muffled but audible. Is it true? Ryan's voice was low, dangerous. Emma's ex-husband, Tom. Is that who you married? Ryan, I didn't know. Sophia's voice cracked. Answer the question, yes. Yes, I married Tom, but I didn't know she was. I had no idea you were dating his ex-wife. How could I have known? Emma heard Ryan's harsh exhale, heard him pacing on the porch. Sophia, of all the people in the world. It wasn't on purpose. Sophia's voice rose defensively. I didn't plan this. I fell in love with someone, and yes, he was married. But he told me they were already over.
They're never already over when someone's still married.
Ryan's anger was palpable. That woman in there, Emma, she's been through hell because of what you did. What we did, Sophia corrected quietly. Tom made choices too. Emma couldn't listen anymore. She walked to her bedroom, closed the door, and let herself break. I've been so stupid, she thought, sliding down against the door until she hit the floor. So impossibly stupid to think I could have this, could have him, could have happiness without the past coming back to destroy it. The universe is laughing at me, offering me love in the form of a man whose sister ruined my marriage. How is that fair? How is any of this fair? A soft knock on her bedroom door. Emma, can I come in? She didn't answer, but Ryan opened the door anyway. His face pale, his eyes red-rimmed. I didn't know, he said, his voice wrecked. I swear to God, Emma, I had no idea. When you told me about your divorce, you never mentioned his name. Aunt Sophia. She got married at a courthouse while I was away on a research expedition. I met him once briefly when I got back. But Sophia never talked about you. Never mentioned your name or anything about his ex-wife. I had no idea Tom was your ex-husband until right now. It doesn't matter if you knew. Emma's voice was flat, emptied of emotion.
It doesn't change what she did.
It doesn't change that every time I look at her, I'll see the woman who destroyed my marriage.
And she's
your sister, Ryan, your family. How am I supposed to? Her voice broke. How can we be together when she's always going to be there? Ryan crossed the room, kneeling in front of her, his hands reaching for hers. She let him take them, too tired to pull away. We figure it out, together, Emma, I love you. That doesn't change. Everything changes. Emma pulled her hands back, standing up, putting distance between them.
Your sister is married to my ex-husband.
Do you understand how messed up that is? Do you understand that I can't just pretend that's okay? I'm not asking you to pretend. I'm asking you to. I need time. The words came out desperate, final. I need time to think, to process. I can't do this right now. I can't be near you or her or any of this. Ryan stood, his hands clenching and unclenching at his sides. How much time? I don't know. Emma's voice rose to a shout. I don't know, okay? I just know I can't breathe right now and I need you to leave. The look on Ryan's face nearly broke her resolve. Pain, fear, desperation, all of it written clear as day across his features. Emma, please. Don't shut me out. We can work through this. Leave. The word came out cold. Please, Ryan, just leave. He stood there for a long moment, looking like he wanted to argue, to fight, to refuse. Then his shoulders sagged in defeat. I love you, he said quietly. That's not going to change no matter how much time you need. Emma said nothing as he walked out. Said nothing as she heard her door close. Said nothing as the sound of his footsteps faded into the distance. She just stood in her bedroom, in the house she'd come to heal in, and felt every carefully repaired piece of herself shatter all over again. The next 3 days passed in a haze. Emma threw herself into work with manic energy, staying late at the office, volunteering for extra projects, anything to keep her mind occupied. Her colleagues noticed but didn't comment. She was grateful for that. At home, she avoided the windows that faced Ryan's house, avoided the porch where they'd spent so many evenings talking, avoided the beach where he'd first told her he loved her. But Ryan didn't make it easy to forget him. The first morning, there were fresh flowers on her porch, wildflowers from the dunes tied with twine. No note. The second morning, she noticed the loose fence post she'd mentioned weeks ago had been fixed. His truck must have come while she was at work. The third morning, there was a single shell on her doorstep, a Scotch bonnet, rare and beautiful, the kind they'd spent hours searching for on their walks. He was giving her space but refusing to disappear, refusing to give up. Emma picked up the shell with trembling hands, carrying it inside like something precious and painful all at once. On the fourth day, Emma sat in Dr. Patricia Johnson's office, a therapist she'd found through her insurance. The office was calm, decorated in soft blues and greys, with a window overlooking a small garden. Tell me what brought you here, Dr. Johnson said gently. Emma told her everything. Tom's betrayal, the divorce, coming to Charleston to heal, meeting Ryan, falling in love, Sophia, and now you don't know if you can be with him, Dr. Johnson summarized, her voice non-judgmental. How can I? Emma's voice cracked. His sister destroyed my marriage. Every family gathering, every holiday, every time I see her face, I'll remember walking into my bedroom and finding her there. How do I get past that? Do you want to get past it? The question hung in the air. Did she? Emma thought about Ryan's hands, gentle on her face. His laugh when she told bad jokes. The way he looked at her like she was something precious. The way he'd never lied, never pushed, never given her reason to doubt him. I love him, Emma whispered. I love him so much it terrifies me. Love and fear often go hand in hand, Dr. Johnson said, especially when we've been hurt before. But Emma, you need to separate Ryan from what his sister did. He didn't betray you. He didn't know. He's as much a victim of this coincidence as you are. But she'll always be there. Yes, she will. And that's hard. But the question isn't whether you can erase Sophia from the equation. The question is whether your love for Ryan is strong enough to coexist with the pain of the past. Emma closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. I don't know if I'm strong enough for that. You're stronger than you think. You left the city, rebuilt your life, opened your heart to love again after devastating betrayal. That takes incredible strength. The question is, what do you want? Not what's easy or what makes sense or what feels safe. What do you actually want? Emma knew the answer, had known it since the moment she'd asked Ryan to leave. She wanted him. God help her, she wanted him. But wanting and having were two different things, separated by pain she didn't know how to bridge.
Is love worth the risk? Let me know your thoughts.
That night, Emma lay in bed, her phone in her hand, Ryan's last text message glowing in the dark. I'm here whenever you're ready. No rush, no pressure. Just know that I'm here and I love you and I'm not going anywhere. He'd sent it 2 days ago. She hadn't responded. Her finger hovered over the keyboard, 1,000 responses forming and dissolving in her mind. I love you too. I don't know if I can do this. I'm sorry. Please don't give up on me. In the end, she typed nothing. Just stared at his words, at the proof that he was still there, still waiting, still hoping. Outside, the ocean rolled eternal against the shore, washing the beach clean like her grandmother had promised, forgiving everything. Emma just didn't know if she was ready to forgive herself for loving someone whose life was tangled so impossibly with her pain. She set the phone down, closed her eyes, and let the sound of the waves carry her into restless sleep. Ryan's words still glowing, unanswered in the darkness. The next morning, Emma woke in the pre-dawn darkness with Ryan's text still glowing on her phone. She stared at his words for 20 minutes before finally typing her response. Can we talk? Beach at dawn? Ryan's response came within seconds, like he'd been waiting, hoping. I'll be there. Emma didn't go back to sleep. She lay awake, rehearsing what she'd say, how she'd explain the war that had been raging inside her all week. By the time the sky began to lighten, she'd given up on finding the perfect words. Some things couldn't be scripted. She walked to the beach as the sun painted the horizon in shades of rose and gold. Ryan was already there, standing at the water's edge, his hands in his pockets, his silhouette dark against the dawn. He turned when he heard her footsteps in the sand. The look on his face, hope mixed with fear. Love tangled with uncertainty, nearly broke her. Hi, Emma said, her voice barely audible over the waves. Hi. Ryan didn't move toward her, giving her space, always so careful with her heart. Emma stopped a few feet away, wrapping her arms around herself. I've been thinking. All week, that's all I've done. Think about us. About Sophia, about whether I'm strong enough for this. Emma, let me say this, please. She took a shaky breath. When I found out about Tom and Sophia, it felt like the universe was punishing me. Like I'd finally found something good, something real, and it was being ripped away as some kind of cosmic joke. I was so angry. At her, at the situation, at fate, at everything. Ryan's jaw clenched, but he remained silent, letting her speak. But then I realized something. I was angry at everyone except the one person who deserves it. Tom. He's the one who made vows to me and broke them. He's the one who lied, and I was giving him so much power. Letting what he did control my future. Control whether I get to be with you.
Emma, you don't have to explain.
She stepped closer, close enough to see the exhaustion in his eyes, the stubble on his jaw, the evidence that he'd been suffering too. Yes, I do, because I love you, Ryan. I love you so much that it scares me, and Sophia will always be your sister. That's not going to change, but you're not responsible for her choices, any more than I'm responsible for Tom's. I should have told you more about her, Ryan said, his voice rough. You told me what mattered, that she struggled, that you supported her, that you loved her. You didn't owe me her entire history. Emma reached out, her fingers brushing his. I don't want to lose you because I'm too afraid to fight for this. For us, Ryan's hand caught hers, gripping tight, like she was the only thing keeping him anchored. I meant what I said. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. No matter how complicated this gets, no matter how long it takes, I'm here. Even when I push you away. Especially then. He pulled her closer, his other hand cupping her face. Emma, I fell in love with your strength, your resilience, the way you're brave enough to start over. I'm not going to stop loving you because things got hard. That's not how this works. Emma felt the tears she'd been holding back finally spill over. So I'm terrified. So am I. Ryan's thumb brushed away her tears. But I'd rather be terrified with you than safe without you. She kissed him then, pouring everything she couldn't say into it. Her fear and hope, her pain and love. Her apology for the silence and her promise to keep trying. Ryan kissed her back like she was air, and he'd been drowning. His arms wrapping around her, holding her against the rising tide. When they finally broke apart, The sun had fully risen, painting the world in gold. "So what now?" Ryan asked, his forehead resting against hers. "Now we take it one day at a time, and I need to do something I've been avoiding." "What's that?" Emma took a deep breath. "I need to talk to Sophia." The weeks that followed weren't easy, but they were honest. Ryan showed up every morning with coffee, sitting on her porch while she got ready for work, talking about nothing and everything. He fixed the cabinet door in her kitchen that had been sticking. He brought her lunch on days when he knew she'd forget to eat. He didn't just say he was staying. He proved it. Emma found herself relaxing into the routine of them, letting herself believe that maybe, just maybe, this could work. 2 weeks after their beach conversation, Emma sent a text to the number Ryan had given her. "Sophia, this is Emma. Can we meet? Just the two of us." The response took hours, but it finally came. Yes, when and where. They met at a small cafe in downtown Charleston, far enough from the beach that it felt neutral. Emma arrived first, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea she couldn't drink, her stomach in knots. Sophia walked in, looking nothing like the confident woman Emma had built up in her mind. She looked tired, uncertain, her blonde hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, her eyes red-rimmed like she'd been crying. "Thank you for meeting me," Sophia said quietly, sliding into the seat across from Emma. Emma nodded, not trusting her voice yet. They sat in silence for a long moment. The sounds of the cafe espresso machines, quiet conversations, clinking cups, filling the space between them. "I need to say something first," Emma finally said, her voice steadier than she felt. "I need you to know that I don't blame you for my marriage ending. Tom made choices. He's the one who broke his vows to me, who lied to both of us. That's on him." Sophia's eyes filled with tears. Wait. Emma's hands tightened around her cup. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't hurt that you're connected to the man I love, that every time I see you, I'm reminded of the worst moment of my life. That's not your fault, but it's my reality. I understand if you need Ryan to choose. I'm not asking him to choose. Emma met Sophia's eyes. You're his sister. You're his family. And if Ryan and I are going to have a future, that means you and I need to find a way to coexist. Not as friends, maybe not even as people who particularly like each other, but as people who both love someone who loves us back. Sophia wiped her eyes. "I didn't know Tom was married." "Not at first. He told me he was separated, that it was over, that the divorce was just a formality. By the time I found out the truth, I was already..." Her voice broke. I was already in love with him. And I know that's not an excuse. I know I should have walked away, but I didn't. And I'm sorry, Emma. I'm so sorry that my choices hurt you. Emma felt something shift in her chest. Not forgiveness, not yet. But the beginning of it, an understanding that Sophia had been lied to as well, manipulated by a man who knew exactly how to get what he wanted. "Tom's good at that," Emma said bitterly. "Making you believe you're the only one who matters. Making you feel special. He was lying to me." Sophia's voice was quiet. "The whole time. He told me you were cold, distant, that the marriage had been over for years. He made me believe I was saving him from loneliness." Emma laughed, the sound harsh. "He's good at that. Making himself the victim, telling everyone exactly what they need to hear." They looked at each other. Two women who'd been played by the same man, who'd both lost something to his selfishness. "I left him," Sophia said suddenly. 2 weeks ago. I filed for divorce." Emma's eyebrows rose. "Why?" "Because he did to me exactly what he did to you. I found out he was seeing someone else. His assistant." Sophia's laugh was bitter. Turns out once a cheater, always a cheater. Emma should have felt vindicated, should have felt some satisfaction in knowing Tom had gotten what he deserved. Instead, she just felt sad. Sad for the time they'd both wasted on a man who wasn't worth either of them. "I'm sorry," Emma said and meant it. "Me too." Sophia reached across the table, her hand hovering near Emma's. "I know we might never be friends. I know I hurt you in ways I can't undo, but I want you to know, Ryan loves you more than I've ever seen him love anyone. He's happy with you, really happy. And I promise I will never do anything to come between that." Emma looked at Sophia's outstretched hand, at the peace offering it represented. She thought about Ryan, about the life they were building, about the choice between holding on to anger or reaching for hope. She took Sophia's hand. It was awkward, tentative, but it was something. A beginning. 6 months later, life had found its rhythm. Emma's beach house was fully renovated. Her grandmother's wind chimes hanging on the porch. Ryan's work studying marine sponges had identified proteins, being developed into new cancer treatments. That was getting national attention. They cooked dinner together most nights, walked the beach every evening, fell asleep, tangled together in her bed while the ocean sang them to sleep. Sophia visited occasionally, always respectful, always careful. The relationship between her and Emma would never be easy. But it was civil, even warm on good days. They were learning. On a Thursday evening in late spring, Ryan asked Emma to walk with him on the beach. "We walk every day," Emma teased. "What makes tonight special? Just humor me." They walked to the spot on the beach where they'd first kissed, where he'd first told her he loved her. The sun was setting, the sky ablaze with orange and pink, the air warm and salt-sweet. Ryan stopped, turning to face her, and Emma's heart began to race. "Emma," he said, taking both her hands a year ago. "You dropped a hammer and I picked it up. Best thing I ever picked up in my life." She laughed, tears already forming. "You came here broken, and I was stuck in my own kind of brokenness, but somehow we found each other. And you taught me that it's okay to want something for myself, to not always put everyone else first. You taught me that love doesn't have to be complicated to be real." Ryan dropped to one knee and Emma's breath caught. He pulled out a simple ring, a pearl set in silver, delicate and perfect. "I don't have a fancy speech prepared. I just know that I want to spend every day for the rest of my life walking this beach with you. Will you marry me?" Emma pulled him to his feet, kissing him before she answered, tasting salt and joy, and the promise of everything they'd fought so hard for. "Yes," she whispered against his lips. "Yes, Ryan, yes." They married 3 months later on the beach at sunset, a small ceremony with close friends and family. Emma wore a simple white dress that moved like water, her natural curls crowned with fresh flowers. Ryan stood barefoot in the sand, his eyes never leaving hers as she walked toward him. Sophia was there, sitting alone in the second row, her eyes bright with tears. She caught Emma's gaze as Emma passed and mouthed, "Thank you." Emma nodded, a moment of understanding passing between them. They would never forget the past, but they were choosing not to be defined by it. The ceremony was simple, their vows written by hand, promises spoken with voices that shook with emotion. "I promise to choose you every day. Even when it's hard," Emma said, her hands in Ryan's. "I promise to be brave enough to love you, to let you love me, to believe in the future we're building together." "I promise to show up," Ryan said, his thumb brushing across her knuckles, "to prove my love with actions, not just words. To be patient when you need patience, steady when you need stability, and to never stop fighting for us." When they kissed as husband and wife, the small crowd erupted in cheers, and Emma felt something she'd thought she'd lost forever. Absolute, uncomplicated joy. They walked out of the ceremony hand in hand, the Charleston beach stretching before them, golden in the fading light. Behind them, their loved ones celebrated. Ahead, the future waited, uncertain but bright. Emma looked at Ryan, at this man who'd seen her at her most broken and loved her anyway, who'd waited while she healed, who'd fought for her when she'd tried to run, who'd chosen her every single day. "What are you thinking?" Ryan asked, squeezing her hand. Emma looked at the ocean, at the waves rolling in and out with ancient, faithful rhythm. Her grandmother's words echoed in her mind. The ocean forgives everything. Every morning it washes the beach clean. She'd come to Charleston shattered, looking for somewhere to hide from her pain. Instead, she'd found somewhere to heal, someone to love, a reason to believe that broken things could be made whole again. "I'm thinking," Emma said, pulling Ryan to a stop, kissing him there on the beach where they'd first met, "that the tide always comes back. No matter how far it goes out, it always returns. And love, real love, is worth the risk of drowning." Ryan's smile was brighter than the setting sun. "Is that a yes to the honeymoon in the Florida Keys?" Emma laughed. The sound carried away on the coastal breeze. "That's a yes to everything. To adventure and stability, to joy and fear, to all of it. As long as it's with you." They walked down the beach together, leaving footprints in the sand that the tide would wash away by morning, only to make new ones tomorrow and the next day and all the days after that. Behind them, the past released its grip. Ahead, the future waited with open arms, and Emma, for the first time in years, wasn't afraid to reach for it. The ocean had kept its promise, washing her clean, forgiving everything, and she'd finally learned to forgive herself, for loving wrong before, for being brave enough to love again, for believing that second chances aren't just given, they're earned, they're fought for, they're chosen. And she chose this. Chose him. Chose them. The tide would always return, constant as love, patient as hope. And Emma was finally beautifully home.
If this story stayed with you, don't rush past that feeling. Sit with it. Share it with someone who needs a reminder that love can be rebuilt, that forgiveness is possible, and that second chances are sometimes worth the risk. Thank you for spending this time with me. I'll see you in the next one.